Antonio Carluccio.
Wow, 1,000 people. So the steak is something of my passion. When I don't have very much to do, then I do steaks. And now I use it as well. Here, can you take this? So thank you for coming and welcome here, ladies, gentlemen, ministers. Usually in England, when you make a speech, you say lords and gentlemen. Here we are in Turkey, wonderful Turkey. And I was very, very sort of curious to see that sort of dish that was presented here with the eggs, because I had it the other morning as a breakfast, and I liked it very, very much. It's called, what is it called? The eggs, the scrambled eggs. Anima. And it's wonderful. I would like to suggest the big chefs, because incidentally I am not a chef, I am a cook. The big chefs to establish what is the best anima, you know, to cook really the best one. Because being something so simple, sometimes it's very difficult to get the perfection of it. So usually you have today quite a lot of bits and pieces to your disposition in case of items, material, meat, fish, and so on, and you can play with. But something so simple, treated like that, is just wonderful. So I will have to tell you a little bit of my story, and as I said, I am not a chef, but a cook, and I will tell you how it came together. So the first 20 years of my life, I spent them as a consumer. First, my mother. Secondly, I had to have sort of a wet nurse, which I had to have a double portion. So it introduced me in food in my rest of my life. Then 20 years they were spent in observing what my mother, and testing, obviously, used to cook. She was a wonderful cook. Papa was station master of the railway. We lived in various stations. And I remember when I was 5 or 6, to be in charge of going down to the office of the station and see when the train would depart, in order to go upstairs and say to my mother, yeah, it is on time, so she could throw the pasta into the water, so that Papa, when was coming up, the pasta was perfect. Now, when you grow up with something like that, you know that the cooking of the pasta is important. And here probably in Turkey you have wonderful, wonderful dishes. I saw yesterday, a shank of lamb, which was very, very good, with that grain, what is it called, burek? Yes, bulgur. And it was fantastic. This for me is the quintessence of a country, which food should be culture. There was an Italian chef called Pellegrino Artusi, which said that there are two most important things in life. One is the food, and the other one is the procreation. One without the other is impossible. So I took care of the food, although procreation was an attempt because I was married 3 times but no children, and giving the food to the food, the real important. So I was then, when I was about 20, I started the next 60 years of my life in enjoying food and producing it and become what I am today. Now, I was in Vienna and I had to have the food that my mother used to prepare. So I started to cook the pasta, and then I saw that pasta and many other dishes, they were very useful to connect relationship with, especially with girls. It was wonderful. When you are as a student in Vienna, you don't say, come and see my etchings, but come and taste my pasta. That was very successful. Now, I started with that, and then all my life I cooked. Firstly, because I had interest to see what culture can offer. And Italy has 20 regions, each one is different from the other. And I try to connect and to collect news about cooking, about every region. Then later on I became wine merchant and I visited many Italian restaurants as a customer. And there I could talk about food all the time, practically. But people, they never knew that I was a cook. I was just interested to see how they were doing it. And slowly, then I became, in 1975, as a wine merchant, I went to London after I've lived 15 years in Germany, in Berlin and Hamburg. I learned languages because I wanted to communicate. For me, it's essential to communicate with people. And being in London, I wanted to cook more, and I always cooked. And my ex-brother-in-law noticed that I was a good cook, so they offered to me to run his restaurant, which was the Neal Street restaurant in Covent Garden. Perhaps somebody of you knows it. The owner was Terence Conran, a guru of taste and design. But the Neal Street restaurant was a wonderful restaurant. And I turned it into something very special, a mecca for mushrooms and truffles, because this is my big passion. I wrote 2 books. Of my 23 books that I wrote about Italian food, I wrote 2 about mushrooms. And this is my passion. And this gave me the initial story of becoming what I am today. Because the BBC then noticed me, and I was one of the first to do a program together when Ken Home and Madhura Jaffrey, they were the other 2. And so I became a little bit known between writing books, doing the restaurant, and so on. And so later said, why not to import wonderful things from Italy, wonderful produce. So my ex-wife then became marketing director of Carluccio, a company that we created for importing wonderful food. And next door to the restaurant came Carluccio shop. Only 9 years later, then we could collect some money from very happy investors, which they saw the potential in the brand and all of that, to open the first Italian cafe restaurant. And it was in 1999, and today there are 125 in the world. I am not the owner anymore because I sold them in 2006, but I am a very happy consultant. So I go around and I make sure that my name and the brand and the quality of, it's not a fine dining restaurant, it's a cafe restaurant. And what I wanted to achieve is to give to most people possible a decent chance to eat very good Italian food without to pay a fortune. And that was very interesting because everybody really came, and still today in the restaurant, thank God, they are very successful. He is the crew of one of the restaurant here in Turkey, which are very good. They cook very well. And I'm very pleased to see that the seed that they be in people, Turkish people, that we give about some few years ago is working and is producing wonderful fruit. And that's interesting. So my life now, I am now 80, and I think I still have something in my brain to go. I'm writing a book for children, about mushroom, called Signor Porcino and Madame Chanterelle. A very lovely, lovely story. And this will keep me occupied next to the sticks and so on. And this is my life so far. I was praised by the Italian government with commendatore. The other commendatore was Don Giovanni. And even the British government gave me an OBE that I never would have expected, Order of British Empire. Me, Order British Empire. Very strange. I call it, however, Order Boletus Edulis, which is the name of the mushroom sap. This is by joke. But anyway, this makes me quite happy. And this is the story of a young man, son of a station master, which works all his life on one principle, that Italian food can't be replaced. It can't be tarted up, although somebody tried to make it as a fine dining situation. I remember in Turin, one chef giving me an oyster with chocolate on top. And I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, I want to shock people. I said, well, I suggest that you do it very well, actually, shocking people. Food is a question of love. You cook for love. Many, many people, they cook just for interest, for making money. But I would suggest that you approach, especially the young people, that you keep in mind passion. Passion and remembering what your origins are. Here in Turkey, you have plenty of history behind you to tackle all the food that is there and the producing that is best and could have a good representation in any restaurant. So thank you very much. Usually I had a joke, but today I don't have any jokes. I have one little one. Two little prawns. They are very sad. One said to the other, you know, I am very, very sad. I said, why are you sad? Because Mama has gone to a cocktail party and she didn't come back. Thank you. Thank you for coming and enjoy the experience here. Thank you.